Indiana Basketball Weekly on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The Indiana Basketball Weekly show is brought to you by MyBookie.ag. Go on GruelingTruth.net. Click on the MyBookie icon. You can bet on the playoff games this weekend, or maybe bet the Indiana-Minnesota basketball game coming up Saturday night. I'm your host, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I want to welcome my co-host, was a member of the 1981 National Championship team. And, of course, if you listen to this show, it's been beat over your head repeatedly. Also a member of the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, but he has to buy his own ring, Steve Risley.
And I'm still saving up money to buy that puppy, too, as we speak. How you doing today, Mike?
All right. It's just a little bit chilly out here.
Yeah, I had to put a sweater vest on today to play golf. It was, I think it was mid-70s out here today. So we're struggling out here, too, in our own way.
Yeah,
there was an earthquake in San Francisco, so, there was an earthquake in San Francisco. So we got that going for us, too, out here. So
there you go.
But you can't buy pot legally. You can't buy pot legally now in California. So
you can or can't?
You can. You can just go to the drugstore or the pot store and buy yourself a big old bag of pot if that's what you want to do.
Well, and I'll tell you, I mean, it may not be a bad option for you if you got to keep watching Indiana basketball this year.
Oh, there you go. Touche. Well played.
It might even be considered medical marijuana that way.
That would be medical marijuana. That would be more medical marijuana. The heartbreak involved.
Yeah, the only way to get through the game is stoned and eating potato chips.
Oh, Jesus. And we're certainly not endorsing the use of cannabis, marijuana, whatever you want to call it in any way, shape, or form. But it's all kind of funny. So let's talk IU basketball.
It's legal, so it doesn't matter if you endorse it or not, Steve. The Indiana Hoosiers lost 71-61 to the Wisconsin Badgers to fall to 8-7. What is that, 1-3 in the Big Ten? I think the big thing here was we've talked all year about how Indiana's strength was their inside game, but Wisconsin had Ethan Happ, who just basically toyed with IU. Juwan Morgan and Deron Davis got in foul trouble early, and, I mean, the reserves did too. They simply couldn't hang with Happ. And in the end, Happ ended up with 28 points, 9 rebounds. He was effective in both halves. There was no adjustments to neutralize him at all. You can't win games when you got a big man fouling all your best players out and dropping 28 points on you, Steve.
No, there's a multitude of things here. And obviously it all bodes back to what we've been talking about all the time. It's leadership, communication, teamwork, playing within themselves, help side defense, everything. I mean, you should not be in a position where you have to single-handedly guard a kid like Happ, who basically just he's a great ball player. I understand he's potential All-American, but he had a career night, and we were helping him develop his career. Juwan played hard, but just you don't guard a player like that one-on-one. You guard him 5-on-1, and you use your smothering help side defense, your guards dropping back and ready to fire back out to the three-point line if needed, and then you use your body position on the help side or man side defense, and you shut a kid down with 3 or 4 kids inside, not just one. And Juwan got himself into foul trouble in the first half, and it really, when we're going to continue to be kind of more one-dimensional on consistency on our play, and it's pretty much been inside play throughout the season, and then when our inside play gets into foul trouble, all of a sudden you're left with helter-skelter, which is kind of what happened. I mean, I know that Robert Johnson got 14 points, but along with Collins' 18, in my estimation of watching the game, Johnson and Hartman's points were what I call insignificant points. They weren't motivation points. They weren't change momentum points. They just scored. They just put the ball in the bucket. And, of course, it leads to the final score. But they weren't points that started to sway or change the outcome of the game. And, it's becoming a situation now to where we're going to have to start refocusing probably on the little wins we're going to get and rise to those. Like maybe we're going to beat Minnesota, which I don't think we'll get to. We'll get to that, I'm sure, later on. But, we're going to have to look for big wins. That way to kind of salvage some kind of sanctity out of the season, because I think quickly we're losing an opportunity to put ourselves in a position to get a selection bid in the tournament or things like that. Started getting back to going to Minnesota on Saturday night. It is difficult. They've only lost 3 games. They're one of the better teams in the Big Ten, if not the second best team in the Big Ten. And we're on the road again, and we're just looking at being, 1-4, 1-3 in the Big Ten, real quick. And then we're looking at being back to 500, and that's just not going to get it done with the NCAA selection committee toward getting ourselves in a position to get in the tournament. So we're going to have to start rethinking what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think in the end, you could say that Indiana got away from what works with them because of the foul trouble. It made them less aggressive inside. And the thing that's disappointing to me is you got veteran guards, and the guards just kind of became trigger happy. And the ball movement wasn't stale, but it was often initiated without hardly any purpose at all. So you had quick possessions, which handed Wisconsin valuable second half, extra possessions right when IU couldn't afford to lose it.
Right. No, it goes back all along. It's just the lack of leadership from our guards and the lack of willingness or interest to engage into the game, not to their own personal world in the game, really just continues to hamper IU's team's effort offensively and defensively. I mean, we weren't getting back. We give up defensively, our guards give up 46.7% three-point shooting. And you let a team shoot almost 50% of the three-point line on you because we're not hustling to get back out and cover the three-point arc, and you're going to get beat. I mean, it's just what's going to happen. You let any team shoot close to 50% from the three-point line, and it's not going to help you. So it's the same problem. I mean, we're kind of beating a dead horse here, but I just don't see any change occurring until some change occurs. And what that change is, I don't know. I mean, there's calling. Dockage was calling for one of Knight's old tricks of benching 5, putting 5 kids out there with heart. We've talked about that before as a shake-up. But I think we're getting a little bit of a precarious slope here where I don't think Coach Miller wants to fall into that Bob Knight trap of, well, this is how Bob Knight do things, so let's just do it that way. I think he wants to put his own mark on it, and I'm sure he's trying to figure it out. I'm sure, I said on Twitter and a couple after the game, this is really falling off his shoulders now. It's really not on him as much. I can't believe he's not better prepared or trying to better prepare this team to play. This is falling on the heart in each of these players and the willingness to take some pride and to be relevant and to begin to start leaving some mark on some history of IU basketball. And these players just collectively aren't wanting to do that. I mean, they're I don't know what they're doing. They're just out there playing. Might as well just be playing pickup ball at a dust bowl somewhere. So I'm just not seeing. I'm not seeing that the name on the front of your jersey is more important than the name of your back in jersey cliche. I'm not seeing it anywhere, and it's disappointing. I mean, we've got a great player in Juwan Morgan. We're giving him virtually no support, and I'm talking about support toward winning. I don't care if somebody's putting up 18 points or 14 points or somebody's average. If they're not supportive points going toward achieving victory, they're just points to put on a stat sheet and say, I'm now part of the IU 1,000-point club. Big whoop-de-doo. I mean, champions are measured by the number of rings they wear and they carry and the number of championships they hang on their banners. And this team's going to walk away with none of that. None whatsoever. Not that they really had a realistic chance to, but they could have started something here in a foundation of where we start building the Archie Miller era. And these are the kids that we all go back and say, God, remember when Morgan and when Howard and Hartman and McRoberts were there, and those guys started and lit the fire into this whole thing to make this transition back to the glory days of Indiana basketball. There's no effort into that whatsoever. It's very disappointing.
Yeah, and this may be the worst three-point shooting team in program history, too.
Yeah, and that's shot selection. I mean, we don't. There's getting good shots off the three, off your offense. Getting good three-point shots off your offense is the way the game is played today. When I played, when you played the game, we didn't have three-point shots. It wasn't part of the game, and now it is. So you have to build that into your offense. The problem is there's no offense. They're not running an offense to get three-point shots. They're just dribbling across half court and firing, and with one pass, with no pass, dribble, shoot, and so they aren't part of your offense. And when you don't run an offense you lose game continuity. You lose game continuity, you don't have a team. And you don't communicate, you don't help out, you don't set screens, you don't do anything that's vital. It's why we put 5 kids on the floor, Mike, is to utilize all 5 in their skill sets and to win a game as a team, not as an individual trying to score 30 points in a game. And there's none of that at Indiana right now. And I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to pick on Archie Miller because it's not fair to pick on him yet. These aren't his kids he recruited. This is not his basketball team. I mean, it is his team, but, the only thing that disappoints me about Archie is I would have thought I'd have seen a little bit more improvement or a little bit more gut check coming out of him at this point in time, because right now, the season is very quickly slipping away from Indiana right now. Very, very quickly. Is it just every loss now? It's about putting wins on the board right now. Forget about development now. You got to get wins on the board. You just got to win ball games.
Yeah, and next up,
we're not close to winning ball games.
You go on Saturday. Minnesota, I think, is not as good as I thought they would be this year. I mean, they lost by 10 to Nebraska. They lost to Miami of Florida, who's a really good team. But they got blown out by Arkansas. Their last game, they beat Illinois 77-67. I think they're probably the 3rd or 4th best team in the Big Ten, which means they're probably better than Indiana. When you look at Minnesota, though, I mean, I think what you see is an experienced team that went to the tournament last year. Jordan Murphy is a forward who's a really good player. Amir Coffey, their guard. I mean, the thing is, when you look at the stats from the Illinois game, which Illinois, I think, has turned out to be maybe better than people thought they would this year. I think they're sitting at 10-6 right now. But if you look at Minnesota, you had every one of their starters in double figures.
Yeah, team ball. I mean, spread the wealth. I mean, get everybody involved in the offense, get everybody involved in the defense. And you talk about Illinois. I know early on we talked about Illinois. I think we used them as a buffer against when they played Indiana State, about how they went over to scrimmage in Indiana State. Illinois did. But you got to give Illinois credit. They're improving. They're getting better. And every team that's really serious about playing college basketball right now ought to be improving. I can tell you right now, there's probably no team accelerating and getting better right now in the country than Michigan State. I mean, Tom Izzo is a genius at getting his team. Starting now, he's thinking Final Four. And he's getting his team ready and developing and playing players and instilling offenses. Illinois getting better. Penn State getting better. Ohio State growing leaps and bounds. And Indiana is just languishing no better than we were when we played early in the season. I mean, we have our moments against, and we played well against, we played well against Duke, we played well against Notre Dame, but there's these ebb and flows have to go away at this point in the season if you want to have any impact toward the end of the season and you want to be playing into March and miss spring break.
Yeah, and
simple as that.
If you look into this, you got Minnesota Saturday. Then on Tuesday night, Penn State comes to Indiana. Sunday, Indiana gets to host Northwestern. I think these next 3 games are huge because after that, you're going to Michigan State. Yeah, you're going to Michigan State. You're going to play Maryland, who I think is 13-3 right now. Then you got to go to Illinois. Indiana, even when they were good, Illinois was a tough place to go play. And then you come home to play Purdue, and I think Purdue is the second best team in the Big Ten right now.
I think you're right, and again, it's another one of those emotional games where you throw everything out the door, and that game just means everything to both teams. And I'd say Purdue's got a bigger heart than we have right now, or we're showing it. I mean, I don't want to beat up kids. I don't want to beat the program up, but I'm just telling you, I don't know what. I've yet to see a basketball team that you couldn't jumpstart. I mean, I don't even know what to tell you other than what repeating ourselves, what we do to jumpstart this team. But they've got to win 3 of the next 4 games. You figure Michigan State's out. They really need to win the next 3 basketball games to give themselves an opportunity to once again start playing toward relevance. Because if they go 500, that's desperate. If they go below 500, that's done. It's toast. It's toast for this year. But we are in the first year of building a program, and I think this is a misnomer of what we're going to see, an anomaly, what we're going to see from Archie Miller. And I think, but right now you're still talking about recruiting. And now we're getting into the bulk of the recruiting season, and players are looking at Indiana and thinking, oh, my God, they're missing another tournament. I don't want to go to a school. If I'm that good, I only want to play 2 years of college ball anyway. And if I can't get in a tournament, what do I want to go there for?
Yeah, and that's my biggest concern with this season right now.
Right. That's where your whole program starts to shift. Your mindset shifts instead of, okay, forget about getting into the dance. Now we've got to start worrying about recruiting players. And it's like I said, a lot of these diaper dandies, as Dick Vitale would call them, they want 1-2 years and they're gone. And if they don't see Indiana being a team next year that can be a Sweet 16 team, they're not going to come. There's no love for playing, not playing in March once the dance starts. So you get forgotten real quick if you're not playing once the tournament starts.
Yeah, and right now they look like at best a 14 or 15 win team.
At best. I think that's at best. I still say to this, I still think they have the talent. I really think that we're not the least talented team in the Big Ten by a long shot. I thought that Wisconsin wasn't as talented as we were. I just don't understand.
Yeah, but you know what? Wisconsin's got a kid in Hap that's a leader, though.
Well, there you go. See, it goes back to what we said. They have leadership. They have leadership. They have work ethic. They have hard work. They bring all those intangibles to the game that we talk about. The 10 things you can do that don't require talent. Being on time, hustle, play hard. Hap's a kid who leads his team into doing that. And we don't have a mental kid on our team like Hap that will get out and lead by example. We talk about Hartman, we talk about McRoberts. If I had $1 for every time those guys cut through the lane and never look at the bucket, I'd be well off. I mean, Collins scored 18, probably could have scored 40. Had he looked to the bucket, he gets the ball. Kid with his shooting ability and his court presence, his dribbling, ball handling skills, and I coached him in junior high and high school. He's got talent. He needs to face up to the bucket every single time and say, damn it, I'm a fifth-year senior. If nobody else is going to do it, I'm going to do it. What does he have to lose? What does anybody on Indiana have to lose right now?
Yeah, because they're already losing the games.
They're already losing the games. I mean, let's go. So, unfortunately, we don't have the miracles, and we're not in the practice, so we don't really know. We don't really know what Coach Miller's doing. I know he's not doing nothing. I know he's probably pulling his hair out as much as anybody is. And maybe it comes down to the point where he benches some of the guys and does it. Like I said, I don't see that in him just by the demeanor in which he speaks on Twitter, speaks on his post-game conferences. I don't see him being that hostile. I think he'd be a little bit more forgiving about it, at least publicly. So I think you're just going to see kind of a hope we all come together against Minnesota on Saturday night kind of that attitude, because I don't see anything else working with these kids right now. And, but it's a learning process. It's part of a curve. I just thought this team could achieve a little bit more than what it's leading me to believe it can achieve right now.
Yeah, I don't know if I expected for more than this. I think I kind of expected this and hoped for more, and I thought Archie Miller was a hell of a coach. I still do. That doesn't change my point on that. And my big takeaway from this show is you quoted Dan Dockich on the show.
Well, Dan's not an idiot. I mean, he's a coach. He's a player. He sees a lot of things, and if you listen to him, he's got good insight into a lot of things, and a lot of things I was totally agreeing with him. He's in the doghouse with a lot of IU people right now because he speaks the truth. And I don't know if people don't want to hear the hard things or what, but these kids just are not – they're not willing to sacrifice what it takes to build some history into their classes.
Well, what I want to see in the end is this. I want to see a team that's fighting their ass off at the end of the year. If they're doing that, I'm thinking they're going in the right direction. But I would have thought I would have saw that by now. But I'm still going to withhold judgment till the end of the season.
Yeah, and from my perspective, how I played the game, I want to see somebody get physical. I want to see somebody get pissed off on the court. Just pissed off. Like, you're not going to punk me like that on the basketball court. I'm Indiana. And you talk about expectations. Yeah, I have higher expectations of Indiana than I do of Illinois. I have higher expectations of a Ferrari than I do of a Volkswagen. Namesake alone carries you to some degree, branding alone. And the brand of Indiana should come with a higher level of expectations to it.
Yeah, but
than other teams.
Steve, don't you think that those levels of expectations have kind of been lowered for most of this century? And sometimes it's harder to get that back than to just show up and say, I've got Indiana on my jersey, be afraid of me.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that's the case. I mean, I don't have a rebuttal for you at this point.
Well, you got to remember,
Mike,
if you're a 20-year-old kid, you've never seen Indiana in a Final Four.
Yeah, no, you have not. So, I just hope for everybody's sake, before we start getting too down on our daubers. And at this point, I don't know if I even really care about what the won-loss record is. I just want to see kids go out and play with pride, with hunger, with a sense of purpose, with leadership, with communication. Just play that way. If you get beat, like I said, I can take, in playing golf, I can take if somebody throws birdies at me all day long. I'm just getting beat. All right, but if I'm making double bogeys and my opponent's making bogeys, that's on me. Right now, the losses are on Indiana, not on our opponents. With a few exceptions, obviously, but for the most part, we're beating ourselves a lot worse than our opponents are beating us right now. So, like I said, I believe Coach Miller and his staff are just as fraught with pearl as much as any of us are. They're frustrated, and he has to look at the big picture where we can come on a radio show and rant and rave individually about each individual game. And but I just wish these kids had a little bit more pride in what they're doing. For the sake of everybody involved with Indiana basketball, there's just no pride. I'm not seeing any pride at all.
All right,
that
Steve,
bothers me.
You want to tell everybody where they can go to, maybe ask you some questions or just make comments about the game or anything you might happen to say?
We have a Twitter page, Grueling Hoops, @Grueling Hoops. It's a Twitter page. Please, reach out there. I also have my own Risley 34. I'll take questions on either Twitter page if you got them. And you can also hit us on, I believe you have a Grueling Hoops has a Facebook page.
Yeah.
Or Grueling Truth does. You can get us there. And, just let us know what your thoughts are if you want, or if you got any suggestions. I don't know what to tell you. I'm disappointed. I'm just disappointed that we're just not showing more pride.
All right, Steve, we're going to wrap it up until after the Minnesota game. I want to remind everybody you can go to iTunes and actually download the Grueling Truth app to get all of our shows. Whether it was the NFL Weekly Pick'em show that we just posted tonight with former Denver Bronco Mark Cooper, or the San Francisco 49ers Weekly show, which next week they will have a season wrap-up show with Dexter Carter, who's the host of the show, Matt Andrews-Scavage, and William Floyd, who played on the 94 World Championship team for the 49ers. You can hear all of our shows on iHeart, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, wherever you hear sports podcasts. You'll find the Grueling Truth. So, for Steve Risley, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to the Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.